I contested the last 4 political elections in Western Australia. I contested the Senate re-election, and I'm contesting the federal election next year. I'm the president of a new political party, Voter Rights Party. I've written 4 books of non-fiction literature, including a book about September 11th, Afghanistan and Iraq. So I consider myself to be somewhat of an expert on Islamic issues. Now, friends, as far as I'm concerned, today, you are the heroes in our nation. As we celebrate our traditional Australian identity and values in Reclaim Australia. Today's rally is about freedom. Freedom from violence, freedom from persecution, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and the freedom to dissent. That is the freedom to disagree with political government tyranny and violence and other violent political ideologies throughout the world. Historical democratic freedoms we have articulated for since Federation. As we celebrate Easter this weekend, we also celebrate our Australian way of life, our Australian identity and values, our Australian history and freedoms, a fair go, hard work, compassion, mateship. All of the values we as Australians hold dear and have worked hard for. In today's world, we objectively analyse the political ideology of Islam, both its literature and practices, and ascertain it is in fact a very violent and dangerous male-driven misogynistic political ideology, not a religion. True religion, as in the teachings and laws in the New Testament, Jesus Christ, promote love, compassion and justice. Section 116 of our Australian Constitution promotes religious freedom, written in the context of maintaining the Christian faith, and prevents the federal parliament from imposing a national religion on the Australian people. Therefore, Sharia law under Islam is not permitted in Australia under Section 116 of our Constitution. In reality, its teachings and practices are forbidden in Australia. Yet we as Australian citizens are indeed experiencing political, economic, educational and social betrayal and treason by Australian politicians. Tony Abbott and his politicians support halal certification, effectively the funding of Islamic violence, while at the same time wasting billions of dollars of public money funding war in Iraq. Mr. Abbott wrongfully attributes Islam as a religion rather than a violent political ideology, and has already proven his support for male-driven physical and sexual violence against women and children in self-appointing himself Minister for Women's Interests. The Liberals' juxtaposed position regarding halal certification is also supported by Labor politicians and the Greens. Friends, we must reject all of that. On the 30th of September 2014, Colin Barnett met with 12 Muslim men, telling them they're welcome in WA, and in doing so, in reality promoting violence against Australian women and children. On the 8th of October 2014, the Acting Police Commissioner Stephen Brown publicly stated, "More Muslims are needed in the WA police force." His shocking advocation is a direct threat of violence against all West Australian citizens. We need more women police officers, to protect women and children and good men in Australia. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Friends, at the end of my speech, you and I are going to do a freedom rally that will reverberate throughout our nation and throughout the world. And I give you permission to record my speech and Queensland, where today they're all rallying for the same cause, and also in London in the United Kingdom. Our politicians are supporting violent threats by Muslim men, and are also actioning decades of violent genocide against Aboriginal Australians, our poor and vulnerable Australians, and women in government facilities and in the community, while serving themselves the very rich and globalist interests. Globalisation, politics and economics, and racist social engineering practices like multiculturalism are created by politicians to cause conflict between citizens, to maintain their own corrupt power and control over society. Our fundamental thinking is, if we don't get better politicians in our parliaments, current politicians will potentially create civil war between citizens in Australia. Recent research has come out that federal funding is being provided to 40 pilot schools across Australia to teach kindergarten children Arabic. Furthermore, the WA Minister for Education, Peter Collier, announced encouragement of WA kindergarten children to speak their own languages at school. Both federal and state initiatives will destroy the teaching, speaking and writing of Australia's national language, English. The world has experienced 1,400 years of Islamic killing, torture, violence, rape, slavery and pedophilia against Christians, Jews, atheists, infidels, Sikhs, Buddhists and Hindus. Yet their worst atrocities are against women and children. I make a strong point publicly of directing blaming Muslim men based on Quranic literary teachings degrading women and their obvious violence against women and children, against Western women and children as well as Muslim women, and the guilt also of male-dominated parliaments, judiciaries and government throughout the world, throughout history. So shocking is their violence against women and children, one could classify Islam as, above all, male-driven war and genocide against the world's women and children. I refer to barbaric practices including female genital mutilation, in reality lifelong torture and the destruction of women's sexual gratification, rape and gang rape of women and children, public shootings, decapitations, hangings, floggings and stoning of women and children, slavery and sexual slavery markets, selling and buying women and children, and their worst of all, widespread indoctrinated pedophilia, surreptitiously yet falsely promoted as child marriages, and the forced prostitution of Caucasian Western children in the USA and the United Kingdom through male Muslim grooming gangs targeting white children. Muslim men in certain European nations, especially Norway, Sweden, Denmark and the United Kingdom, have actioned endemic rape and gang rape cultures against Caucasian women and children, believing inherently in European courts that they have a right to rape women who don't cover their bodies in public. Do we want this rape culture to develop in Australia? Violence and the subjugation of girl children and women is the #1 political issue in Australia and throughout the world. So evil, foul and disgusting are their predatory sexual attitudes towards children. A range of male-dominated parliaments in Muslim nations will not legislate against child marriage, publicly declaring child marriage is permitted in Islam. We will marry our daughters off at any age we want, and there is nothing you can do about it. Furthermore, a child grooming manual has for many years been used in the United Kingdom to lure, steal, prostitute almost 1 million UK white children, as the UK woman politician Rotherham's Sarah Champion discovered. And in the article, she refers as she knew one of the buildings where some of the children were being kept, because there was a line of men lining up in the building and down the road, waiting to pedophile and rape and prostitute little children. It's disgusting and is deserving of the death penalty. Now, friends, I had a bit more in my speech there. I don't know if I'm going to get it back. Not much longer to go, but I do like to be entertaining. If you Google my name, you'll see a whole lot of stuff written about me out there. Okay, we have a look at the International Centre for Research on Women has published a list of 20 nations where between 40% and 75% of girls are pedophiled through child marriage before the age of 18. Nigeria, Chad, Bangladesh, Guinea, Central African Republic, Mali, Mozambique, Malawi, Madagascar, Sierra Leone, and a whole list of nations. In fact, about 85% of nations throughout the world, in every continent of the world, has age of consent below the age of 18. And in most of those cases, the age of consent is below the age of 16. That's widespread indoctrinated pedophilia throughout the world. And it's not limited to Islamic nations. In the 19th century, Canada's age of consent was 12. This is the biggest issue in the world. The good men of this world must fight with the women to stop it. I refer to the 2013, the first United Nations Human Rights Council resolution against child, early and forced marriages was adopted. It recognised child marriage as a human rights violation and pledges to eliminate the practice as part of the UN's post-2015 Global Development Agenda. In 2014, the UN Commission on the Status of Women issued a document in which they agreed, among other things, to eliminate child marriage. However, as long as satanic political men, and I'm not referring to the good men of our nation, the good men standing here today, I'm referring to the traitors in our parliaments who are dominating the world's parliaments and judiciaries, this vision will never be achieved. I refer also to the recent case of the 22-year-old Australian Bendigo mother of 2 children, gang raped by 6 Muslim men in Victoria. 14 counts of rape in acts so violent and barbaric, deserving, in my view, of the death penalty. Muslim men force girl children and women to wear oppressive clothing, the burqa, hijab and niqab. Effectively, this is torture. The test of the validity of freedom is whether a girl, child or woman can remove the clothing in public of their own free will and volition without fear or retribution of violence. The answer to that is no. Muslim women are highly controlled slaves. They do not have freedom independent of Muslim men. I myself, as an Australian-born Western woman, have received violent threats on YouTube, Facebook and mobile phone texts from Muslim men, threatening sexual and physical violence against me personally, including threats that, quote, Australia will one day be an Islamic nation, Teresa, and you'll be wearing a hijab, so get used to it. So my message to all the Muslim men in Australia, I don't think so, you evil monsters. We women enjoy 100% freedom, and we'll never stop fighting. We'll fight forever to maintain it. I outlined some solutions here, friends, but I'm going to finish now because there are other speakers. And I just want to finish with an interaction with you of freedom.